Hi, I'm going to shoot here a mission from the Battlelines Stalingrad Campaign, and it's the Drive on Stalingrad set. Now I've already I'm playing an operation. I'm actually going to play the whole campaign, so I'll go through all four sets, and as a campaign. There's two ways you can do that. One is very challenging, where you just take one unit deck, so that would be one division or division equivalent, I guess a small Soviet corps, and you never change that. The other way is that you can use different divisions in each operation, and I think I'm going to do it that way, at least for this time. It will be the first time I've ever played the whole campaign. But normally what I'm used to is an operation, so each set is generally played as an operation. As a two-player game, it would be set up like this. You can have 4 6 players, which basically replicate this, except you have you'd have different locations, and they would be joined by, for example, the locations that you see here would be joined only at the bases. So at the base and the objective. So these locations would not join up to another player's set of locations. But anyway, I'm playing it as two-player game would be played. And playing the operation, what you do is you head towards 100 victory points. First person to 100 victory points wins. Victory points are gained per mission. So I've already actually played one mission in this operation, and that was quite a short. Well, it's very reduced locations. You can see only 2 on the Axis side and only 3 on the Soviets. And I thought that would be quite a good game. It would be good to film. I filmed it. I've just played it 3 times. I think I filmed it twice. And for one reason or other, I've ditched those videos. It was a very exciting scenario. The first time I played it, I thought it'd be over quite quick. It wasn't. I mean, it took me about an hour and a half to play, but it was very nail-biting and in hanging in the balance right till the end. But the second time I played it, it was over in the first turn because the Axis actually got some lucky card draw, meaning they had a lot of orders and they were able to move straight in and take the base in one go, the objective in one go. And then the second time I played it was this time, and I thought, well, I'll just let that stand. The videos weren't that great. But what it means is that each mission has some victory points on it. And because in this one, the Axis was starting from their base and their objective was the Soviet point here, and they won it, they take this card and they put it in their victory point pile, and they got 36 victory points for that. They also, and that's the location they took, they also destroyed the headquarters of the 181st Tank Brigade, and that gives them 14 victory points. So they're now standing at 50 victory points, halfway to completing the mission successfully. In the victory points pile on the Soviet side, there is unfortunately nothing. So what is the operation, the mission we have now? And it's an interesting one because although the Germans are driving on Stalingrad, this is obviously a counterattack. Action report 319. The Soviets' base is Dukovka Road Junction. So that's the base here, and when you have a base, the objective is always the opposite side, so they're actually trying to get to Zimitsov's farm, worth 36 victory points for the Soviets. Now if the Germans hold that, they will get those 36 victory points. If on the other hand the Germans take the base, they would only get 17 victory points, but you might do that if it's a way of stopping the Soviets from taking their objective. Otherwise you're just you're each fighting for those 36 victory points. Now this tells us that each side chooses, well, the Axis choose 4 formation cards, and it happens that the Soviet have the same number of formation cards. you can see the setup of the locations is completely symmetric. There's nice connections. No diagonal connections across here though. And I've done that. So I've picked for the Germans, I've picked the 10th Motorized Rifle Regiment. So that comes with a headquarters card, armoured troops and infantry troops. So Motorized Rifle Battalion, the first and the second part of the Motorized Rifle Battalion. And then as support from the headquarters, how do you say that? From the sort of the assets deck, from the divisional assets, they're having artillery. That they've got an artillery regiment in support, heavy rocket regiment as it happens, and you can see that in the cards all of the photos are appropriate to the unit. So you've got rockets depicted here. You've got some very determined fellows depicted on the headquarters. And some troops there. And then these, with more troops, some heavy weapons. This is actually armoured, so it might be these tanks to support more tanks supporting troops. Unfortunately, the locations, they all have the same background, so it doesn't relate to the different locations, but you get the different flavour from the different benefits for each position offer. The defender is always getting a nice benefit. Here, maybe if I show you. So you see in defence, you're getting cover of 5 and combat value, defence value of 2 benefit. As a regular attacker, you get neither of those. If you manage to get into the infiltrate position or the flank position, you'll get some. But you can only have 1 unit in either of those 2 flank and infiltrate positions. So we have that. On the Soviet side, I did something a little bit different. I chose these 2 units. So it's troops from the 180th. I've got the 180th Tank Battalion and the 180th Motorised Rifle Battalion. So we've got armour and infantry again. Now normally those would go together with their headquarters, the respective headquarters. You see each organisation has the same symbol at the top. But I chose a corps headquarters because that is going to give me the headquarters for this organisation is not that great, and I thought if I have this, it gives me more options, and it's going to give me more chance to bring in extra troops. And then similarly, I brought in some core artillery support, similar to the Germans, in this case, mortar battalion. Look at the size of that mortar. Is that strictly a mortar? It looks more like rockets, but maybe that's just how they called them. Okay, and we also have, here we have, this is a campaign card. And I will get to that if it's necessary, but that can give, that's points towards winning the campaign. Rather than the operation. So that's how the game, how this mission is set up. And to start, the first thing we do is, as you might have noticed on here, each player gets 4 formation cards and then opponent randomly discards 1. So I've got a D4 here to decide that. So for the Germans, bang, number 2. Whoops, that is their headquarters. So that goes directly into the discard pile. And for the Soviets, 1. And that is going to be infantry troops cards. So those go into discards. Now, before I move on, I should talk about some other things which I wanted to say. So we've got our draw decks here. And because I'm playing a campaign, I have higher echelon decks, which I can add assets in to these draw decks. So I can make the decks more bulky. It's also possible to make the decks less bulky. But you have to check each the deck description to say what's the minimum, what's the maximum of each type of card you can have, and also each deck has to be a minimum of 55 cards. In this case, what I've taken out of the German deck a certain number of cards just to try and make it a bit thinner, because them being on defense, if they burn through this, then the mission is over. So it's quite good for the defender to have sort of a slim deck. It's a decision you have to make. On the other hand, these aren't available for play, but what I looked through and made sure is none of the numbers at the bottom were too great. These are will determine orders for a turn or chance checks. So you're looking at high numbers there. And then I also chose, for example, the 1st Commando Battalion is a very valuable unit, but I didn't want to bring it in on, it's great on attack. It would be good on defense, but I didn't want to risk losing it, giving those 46 victory points. We don't really need it on defense. Then I also took out the whole 33rd Panzer Regiment, that's the hearts symboled fellows there. Then I also took out some other troops, some odd troops, and some other odd action cards just to slim the deck down a bit more. Similarly, with the Soviets, I had to make the same kind of decision. Initially, I thought to make their deck slim. Now, they're on the attack, so they want the mission to go on as long as possible, you know, if they need it. The defender wants it at night time or whatever, you know, rain stops, play as soon as possible, really. So it was quite good to have a lot of bulk in their deck, but I decided to take some out, just because this, by slimming my deck down of certain cards, in this case formation cards, I'm more likely to get to the action cards and other interesting cards that I want to enable me to get forward. So I decided not to bulk out lots of formations. One of the formations I could have taken out was this one, which we've already lost a unit to the Germans, so it's not full. But I decided to keep some of them in. So I've taken most of them out, but I've decided to keep one of them in along with some others, because they are offering me high chance check numbers, which are always useful, and high orders numbers, which could be useful. So they're actually going to go in the deck. I'll have to shuffle those in. So, okay, so that would actually have happened before I would choose these formations, the starting formations. And so having discarded a card on each side, I now set up. Now the Germans will set up, so it's always the defender who sets up first. And the attacker, in this case the Soviets, will move first. So the Germans have artillery and 2 troops, no headquarters. Normally the headquarters would go sort of on the back line to bring in, assemble and commit new troops. So I'm looking at the defensive bonuses and trying to even them out. So we've got a slightly weak unit here in better defensive terrain, the State Farm. Bakayepepumuksuna over here, defensive terrain. Actually, that's pretty good as well. No, so okay, I'm going to put the armoured there and the infantry there, and then I'm going to put the artillery back here. That's helpful because it can bring artillery to fire on adjacent locations, so on either of those. Although, because of the connections here, if I put it in either one of these, it could provide fire on adjacent. So in fact, bearing that in mind, I think I will do that, although it's at risk of being destroyed earlier. It also has an ability to bring an extra barrage down on people that are in contact. So if it was there, it wouldn't get to use that so soon. So I'm going to take that slight risk and put that one there. So now we're ready to start. So first thing, we draw our hand, and the Soviets in this operation get 4, and Germans get 5. So the Germans are bringing out formation cards. They've got a fortune card, which can be played immediately. So the Germans have pulled out 4 formation cards, and this fortune card, intelligence, it's an ambush. We found out about their plans. We got there first and sent them straight to the devil. Enemy discards 1 troops card. Well, that would be from the hand, and I think we would probably do that. We don't know what's in the hand, and we're probably going to do that straight away, because it means the enemy wouldn't be able to reinforce immediately. But first, I forgot, I need to set up the attackers. So here we've got headquarters, troops and artillery. Now this is a bit tricky, because if I want the artillery to aid in the attack, so I'd do something like this, or probably this, but then that leaves that undefended, which is risky. So, and I don't know yet what my hand is, so there's quite a good defensive bonus here. So I'm going to take the risk of putting the headquarters here, just to try and hold any move there and go straight into the attack. Alternatively, I could perhaps put the artillery in and hope to bring some troops in quite quickly. If I'd been clever, if I did have the headquarters from this organisation on the board instead of the upper echelon one, then I could have brought in the discarded one. So that was a risk I took. But this one's going to be able to bring in more cards from the deck later. So yeah, I think I'm going to be a bit risky and leave these here. I need that artillery to help support the attack, and we do have to attack. So that's the setup. Here's the hand draw. What do the Soviets have? Well, unfortunately, they actually have. I did consider taking these out of the deck, but they actually have 2 battle, what they call battleground cards. So these are demolitions and camouflage, but what they actually do is they provide defensive benefits, which maybe is good for this. Then we also get a major general, so that's an attachment card. I can attach that to any other unit, and he's going to give lots of bonuses. That's fantastic. And then I have scouts. This is a tactics card from the action type, and that's going to help when I'm going into battle. It's going to give us some cover with the scouts, and then an increased opportunity to get an infiltrate position. So that's looking quite a good hand, starting hand for the Soviets, especially considering their setup. Then what we do to actually start the play is draw this, and we look down in the corner here for the number of orders we have. You see the little orders envelope. In this case, it's just 1, which is unfortunate. So it can go up to 4 with any one of those. So that the Soviets have 1 order. There's not much they can do that. I think what they're going to do is cover their headquarters with. So they'll spend that order and bring in this battleground card. We tuck it under here. That's going to give some extra cover and protection for the headquarters there. So that's the that is a turn. And you can see it's quite astonishing when the Germans essentially they managed to get 8 orders in 1 turn. So we go to the German side, and for their orders check, they have a 4. Dun, dun, dun. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the discard pile. So you see you're using part of your deck. For example, this now means that Lieutenant General Frankenquist is not available to come into this mission, except in certain cases, which we'll get to at a certain point as and when the situation comes up. So, okay, so they've got 4 orders and quite a lot of choice then in which cards they're going to be using. Oh, and I forgot, at the end of a turn I should have drawn Soviet hand back up to 4. So the first, in fact, this doesn't cost an order. The fortune cards don't. They're immediately going to use that to discard any troops card which the Soviets have. They don't have any, so that was wasted, but at least that's some information they know. And now essentially they've got lots of formations here which they could bring on, and they could actually perform an attack with all that kind of with all those orders available. I think that's what we're going to do. I mean, not often you would plan a bit better than I'm going to do right now, but I'm just going to throw these two into the attack. So the way that works is we spend an order and we activate this card's text. Now you activate, that means you read through in the strict order here, and you can perform any and all of these in order. Once you pass one, you can't go back and perform it later. So the first thing is March 1 or Advance 1. Now he needs to use the advance to go into an enemy controlled location. He's taking the artillery with him because they're stacked together. He's able to do that. Then the next thing we check is that he could try to flank. Now that's always going to be beneficial. In this case, not so much. But as a defender, we're quite happy to burn through our deck on the odd chance. So now I go here and I check this symbol down the bottom here. So that we needed a 5 and that was a 4, so no luck there. Then I've also got observer possibility. That would mean I can use a barrage attack from any artillery, or even in fact this fellow has a small artillery component with him. That's 2. So we're going to try that as well. And I got a 7, so no dice there. Then that brings us to the combat line. Now I might actually halt there. In fact, I'm going to halt there and show that he's activated, so he can't be activated again this turn. Just to note that this fellow, you know, if he's performs combat and is successful, that would remove this card, and then because he's got an advance after combat on a chance check of 3, he could then advance again, which would bring him straight to the baseline. And that quite a few German formations have that ability, only 1 or 2 Russian ones, so you can see how things are formulated in this game. So he's been activated. I'm going to use another order to activate the artillery. Why? Because the artillery can try and barrage that. If he goes straight into attack, there's a chance this fellow will get a shot on him first. So let's soften him up and maybe cause a withdrawal before doing that, so that he'll have, that would have to happen on another turn. So anyway, I'm activating this. So start with barrage, target cover 3 or less. So now we check here and we see that in the defend position he has in that tree symbol 2 points of cover. Now some units actually provide cover, especially like reconnaissance, sappers and so forth. He doesn't, but with that battlefield card he's got 3. So that's 3, 4, 5. So we can't actually use that barrage ability in this case. However, and that could have been used from an adjacent location. However, he's got another barrage ability. So if there was a target cover 3 or left, he could have done this twice in this sequence. But now he's only going to be able to do it in contact. So they are in contact rather than adjacent. So he's going to go for barrage. So what we do is we check the barrage number here. That's the yellow chevron. He has 8. Then we take a card. We check the number here, 7. So we add those together. That's a whopping 15. Then we compare that to the defensive number here, any defense in the terrain we are in. So that's 6 together there. And then +1 from the camouflage gives us 7. Now 16 is twice 7, no 15 wasn't it? It's still twice 7, so he's actually, that's 2 results. And you draw the results from the deck of the unit taking the results. So, which means each deck is tweaked to each unit, each fellow. So, and then we look here. Now, 2 results, 1 hit, and there's a chance that it's withdrawn or it might hold on a 3 or 7. But then we have 2 hits here, so that's 3 hits in all. And this organisation can only take 2 hits. So unfortunately that headquarters is destroyed. It goes to the Germans pile, and I'm really wishing I had left it back there. And they take control of this location. Oh, no, they don't. Normally they would immediately. Discard those cards now, I don't need them. But this is a difficult location to take, a bit more than normal, so you have an orders cost to it. So simulating harder terrain, we have to expend an extra order to take that position, and now we are defending it. We actually gain the battle round card on it. So that was great. Now potentially the artillery could march after the barrages. But a march is not an advance. You need advance to go into enemy controlled territory. So the march would be maybe over to here. But it's fine where it is. So we've got 1 order left. And with that, I'm going to do what I should have maybe have done before, is to bring in one of these units. Yes, I'm going to bring in from my hand this headquarters unit. So he comes in on our objective location there at the back. And that's the last order. So that turn is finished, and we go back to the Soviets. I'm not forgetting to draw the German hand up to its minimum. Okay, so the Soviets get 2 orders, and they have so they're in a bit of trouble. They have an interesting card here though. Interdiction, target unengaged forces. Now these ones are actually unengaged and very threatening, so if I play that immediately using one of my orders, there's a chance of taking that out. That is a shock attack using the red chevrons and the red numbers here, so it's 5. And I draw a card and would add this number to it, but unfortunately often shock attacks miss for one reason or another. That always negates the attack, so that was unsuccessful. We had a chance, didn't gain it, so I'm going to have to draw these back to actually defend our base, which is somewhat disastrous at this point. So I'm going to march one of these here, and potentially could and bringing the other one with it, potentially could advance up here, but not. Now there's one thing so yeah, I'm just going to bring them there. Okay, then we'll go over to the Germans, their next turn. They get 1 order, so that's lucky for the Soviets. What can I do with them? Now, looking at the cards gives me a chance to say something about the organisational requirements. You see the diamond symbols, they can stack with any other unit, but only, say, so we got the club symbol unit there. I call them units, they call the whole deck a unit, so I get confused. These I should call a formation. And this formation is a diamond, so they can stack together, and I can have 1 more. So if I have 1 clubs, I can have 2 diamonds. If I have 2 clubs, I could have 3 diamonds, like that. That's the maximum in any one location. I normally can't have any diamonds on their own unless I've got at least 1 stacked with another formation. So that headquarters is all right. So potentially I could stack these with the headquarters here, or one of them with that, and I could bring this one in, and again a complete another kind of formation with that headquarters, because that one's a diamond. But this one could not go here or here with clubs formations. But I do have a defensive card, and I think I'm going to play that. It would probably count to go into the attack, but I want to make sure this is a slightly interesting scenario. They can be over quite quick. Like it was half an hour when I had the Germans win in one turn. That was including the setup, and then it was a big turn. That was the point. But I don't want that to happen right now. So they're going to play a battleground card, wire and mines. So that's just going to make this a lot harder to take in case it happens. So to eliminate this card, you must pay its occupation cost in orders. So that's going to require 2 orders without doing anything else, just to take the base. So that's nice. The Germans are sitting very pretty. We go back over to the Soviets. They get 2 orders there. Oops, actually no, that's going to be their hand card, which I'd forgotten to put, and still 2 orders there. So in their hand, this is very nice. It's actually a maneuver card. So you play that as an action card, 1 order cost, and it gives you another, this one just, in this case, just 1 extra orders check, but still, the least I could get is 1. I get 2, so now I've got 3 orders. 3 cards in my hand, few that I need more troops on board, but I don't have them. I think what we're going to do is bring on Major General I.D. Cheryakovsky. He's actually the overall leader of the 18th Tank Corps, and so it's a bit risky bringing him in, but this is a drastic situation, so I'm going to bring him in on the troops. So it comes out of my hand. That costs an order to attach him. Then I can immediately activate him with another order, and that gives me, see, on a 4 I will get 2 more orders checked, so that could be fortunate. So we do the check, and it is a 4, just what we wanted. So 2 more orders. That's 4 orders, and this is 1 order, so that's 5 more orders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's beautiful, but you notice how our deck is going down quite quickly. The next thing he can do is forage, and that is you draw 2 cards in this case and discard 1 of them. So that's good, it's giving me a choice. Actually, it's a bit of a shame. I could do with both of these. I'm going to keep this one, I think, although that has, yeah, it's got stronger combat component, but that's got a good cover. I think I'm going to go with this one. So I discard that one. Although if they had still had their diamond headquarters, it could commit. In fact, it can't commit, because on a commit, it would bring that out of the deck. But a diamond headquarters can only assemble. I didn't notice that. Okay, assemblers bring it out of your hand. So if you say you had headquarters here, you could assemble units out of your hand with the same symbol to there. Normally units only come out of your hand to here at your back line. Okay, so we got an extra tank brigade here. I'm going to bring that in straight away. So that's going to come here on the baseline, and then I'm going to send it into the attack. Often, isn't it? Although you might think we need to defend, often the best form of attack is defense. I'm not going to do that immediately. First of all, what I'm going to do is try and get something else. So I'm going to pull a card. I was hoping for troops. No, but it's a nice tactics card. Okay. So this tank brigade can march and then advance. So I'll spend an order to activate this fellow. So they march there, he's bringing the artillery with him, and then advance into contact. His next line is observer, which means that artillery, and I don't have a chance check for that, which is fantastic. So they've got good artillery with them. So immediately that artillery can fire on this fellow here. And oh, unfortunately it's only a 1. But anyway, 1 added to the artillery number of 8 gives us 9. He's got defense of 5 plus 3 for here, so that's only going to be 1 result check. And it's 1 hit, but the unit will only hold on a chance check of 2 or 4, otherwise is withdrawn from this mission, still available for any further missions in the operation. And the chance check is a 3, so he is actually withdrawn. I put him in the withdrawn area there, and that ends that activation. There's nothing else useful he can do in this activation, but that has changed things quite a lot. So now we are directly threatening our objective. So I could do something interesting. I could march here. No, I was hoping to try and threaten this right now, because then we'd have the interesting decision. The Germans might go for the baseline, getting fewer victory points than they might, but trying to end the scenario, the mission quickly like that. What I'm going to do is we're going to call for reinforcements. Now the Soviets have more reinforcements available because it's a balancing condition, in that because their unit is considered trained, whereas the Germans is considered elite, they, as a balancing mechanism, they get more reinforcements available. And reinforcements come in like this. You spend an order and you can bring them bang directly to any controlled location. This is now controlled by the Soviets, and that's fantastic. Look at this. Infantry brigade. Now you know what units are in your reinforcements. There's the Soviets have 8 possible reinforcements, and in this condition 9 possible but only 8 available, so you turn one over, it's not available. So the Soviets have some idea of what's in there, at least they know that this unit isn't. On the other hand, the Germans have only 2 available, so they know these ones aren't. So now they know 50% chance, they know which these 2 are, but 50% one of them is coming out. We know one of them is an aircraft strike, which is very useful, but we don't know which one it is. But anyway, so this is a great unit. Look, it can take 4 hits. It's really strong in infantry attack. The value of 8 there, not so great against armoured. So anyway, we can bring that in there. That cost an order. Then I can spend another order to activate it. And it can march 1 or advance 1. So it's advancing straight on. Let's bring this down here. Okay. It's advancing straight on Zimitsov's farm. And then the next line in its text is combat. And it's going to bring that artillery with it. And in fact, it can bring this one with it too. Okay, and I can rearrange the stacking as we go. Normally in attack, the top unit's hit, but any unit out of the stack can attack. So I've got combat. Now the problem with the combat is the same problem we had before, is he's likely to get a shot first because we roll off depending on our cover modifiers, and we have no cover coming in straight attack without flank, etc. So then the next thing which I will do for my last order will be to spend the order on this tactics card. So instead of actually activating and I activate this immediately. So I just activated him for the advance. Then this is activated, and it gives us some cover and a chance to get in a flank, and then the combat. So I just see on a 6 we will get the flank. No, that was a slim chance. But anyway, so I'm using the combat line from him. Even though he's activated, you can use it again because it's a different card being activated. And we get 3 cover. He's on 5 cover, so we draw, add this number. So to us, that's 3 plus 5 is 8. The Germans are adding 4 to their 5. That was probably going to happen. So they get the first shot. So his infantry unit, but because it's a headquarters, it's very weak in attack value. Their draw is 4. That's going to be enough. So 4 plus 1 is 5. And our defensive value is 5. So we're going to take 1 hit. 2 hits, but we can take it. However, hold on chance 2, 4, 7, so it might get withdrawn. And the chance is 4, so he holds. This is how the excitement in the game happens. It's great. I really love this game. Every mission tells a different story. Okay, so now it's that infantry brigades, 149th, get their attack in after taking hits from the motorised rifle brigade's headquarters, and again we're attacking the infantry spot. They have 8 to start with because that's obviously a huge formation. We only get 1, but still that's going to give us a lot of. So that brings us up to 9. Now they're on 3 plus 2 for their defensive bonus is 5. So I just missed getting 2 results on them. So they get 1 result, 2 hits. Hold on chance, but he can only take 1 hit, that little symbol. So we have destroyed that headquarters, which is already some victory points, and that card has now been used. We have no orders left, that's it. So we can't immediately take, normally we'd immediately take that and have won, but because Germans thought ahead and put wire and mines there, we're going to have to clear those first, requiring some orders. So it's all going on. What do the Germans get? They get 3 orders on their turn. Oh, hang on, we'll draw the Russians, Soviets back up. Now that's interesting. They drew a fortune card, supply shortage, enemy sets orders to 2. So we're going to use that now. It's a crucial point, isn't it? They just took 3 orders. We're going to set them down to 2. And if I've been paying attention, the Germans would have done that just now as well. That would have changed things, wouldn't it? But hey, that's what happens. Okay, so the Germans have to they're still controlling this location so they can bring in troops straight away, and they're going to bring both of these troops in. So using both their orders, they're just going to bring in 2 troops to defend that location. So I bring them back up. I mean, you might have been shouting, no, no, attack, attack, take the objective. Perhaps I should have. I don't know, what would you do? Because if we are in quite difficult straits there. However, they could hold on for the whole rest of the deck. But it is a very risky position with all of those arrayed against us. And we'd have a good chance to take that. And if we did, we'd also be taking out Major General Cherayovsky. So I think actually we're going to do that as the Germans. That's going to make more sense. So those are back in the hand. Okay, so they've got 2 orders, and they're going to use that to advance, bring in the artillery. So we'll go into the attack position here, activating this fellow. Now on a 5 we would get a flank. Thinking about this. More sensibly is again to bring in the first order would actually be to bring in this fellow out of the hand. It's a leader card, the Knight's Cross. It's going to give us some defense, gives us possibility of a no orders check. No, that's a bit risky, because if I don't get that orders check, it's not really useful. I wouldn't be able to barrage with the artillery. Hang on, so I'm going back a minute. So the first order, the artillery are going to barrage target cover 3 or less, and in fact the target cover is only 2, so we might take them out straight away. So we get an 8, adding that to the 8 there is 6, massive 16, so 6 plus 2, he's on 8, so they're going to take 2 hits. I think this is all over for the Soviets. Don't notice we use the Soviet deck for the results. And yes, 2 hits, and that card can only take 2 hits. So in fact that's it. Major General Cheryskovsky is out of action, 2 captured or what have you. As well as that 1st 180th Tank Battalion. That is a bit of a disaster for the Soviets, but it stopped them taking the objective, and with the second order the Germans just advance into this undefended location, so it would immediately take it. So that thus ends the mission. So the Germans, instead of successfully defending and gaining 36 points, they've taken the base, which gains them 17 victory points. Add to that the units they destroyed, 12, 9 and 13. What's that? So that's 37, 30, 40, 51. That's it, the end of the operations. Adding that to that 50 before, they've got 101 points. So they are going to gain this campaign card for successfully driving on Stalingrad. And then I will move on to the next set. And I'll explain how these work in a future video. I think what I'm going to do is play through the missions and then just make some records and tell you what happens as the campaign goes on, rather than play through each mission on camera. But that has given you a good idea of how the game plays, and you can see how tense it is. The Russians were poised to gain the objective. The Germans just thwarted them at the end, succeeded in clinching the whole operation. So that's that. That is Battlelines. That is how it plays. That's given you you haven't seen everything that is possible in it, but you've seen a good breadth of the possibilities of play, and give you a definite idea of how this plays, and maybe some idea of why this is one of my favourite games. It's probably the most played game that I have, partly because it's quite short. I mean, you didn't see off camera all the organising the decks and so forth, which tailoring your deck, it's part of the fun of card games, isn't it? That deck construction part of it. But the actual immediate mission part can take an hour and a half or half an hour. But I wouldn't play it so often, even though it was short, if it wasn't so enjoyable. And I think you saw there the excitement and the tension that and the different story a mission can take. So that is Battlelines, the Stalingrad Campaign, and the mission from the drive on Stalingrad unit decks.